Hey guys, welcome to Boxing Squared for boxing news and views from around the internet. Boxrec.com, the home of boxing information, schedules, and other boxing related information that we all go to find and search for at different points. Just having a look earlier for something related to a Luis Ortiz video that I was doing, just checking out his Boxrec ranking. So he was rated at number 6, maybe a little low in my view, but it was the rest of the list I was putting in context of where he was and some other fighters that I thought, wow, I think it's certainly an interesting list and something that I should touch upon. So if we go from the top, Anthony Joshua, number 1. I don't have a problem with that actually. He's just recently beat Vladimir Klitschko. Some might say that Klitschko was 41 and that Anthony Joshua, still a few questions to be answered, but he took care of Klitschko and he's beaten everyone that's been put in front of him so far. And let's face it, up until now he's been relatively active and he's been stepping it up, and the competition has been getting, well, before Klitschko actually, it wasn't that great, was it? Molina, that was a joke. But anyway, Klitschko. Okay, let's take that. So in second is Klitschko. I don't have so much of a problem with that, but we have to remember he's got back-to-back losses now. Number 3, Alexander Povetkin. I actually thought this is a really interesting ranking given the spectre of performance-enhancing drugs, or PEDs, has been hanging over him. Twice in just over a year period, he's been caught up in PEDs cases where there's been allegations against him. Number 4, Deontay Wilder. Obviously, some of the competition Wilder has faced hasn't always been the best or the most credible, but it's been okay. It's been okay, but that's all. I think maybe he should be perhaps a slot higher, maybe 2. I don't know. I think those sort of Klitschko, Wilder, possibly Povetkin. I don't doubt Povetkin's talent, but just a few things hanging over him. And let's face it, Povetkin hasn't beaten the best of opposition recently because he hasn't been fighting. But he did beat Rudenko at the start of this month. So number 5, Bret Pulav. He's obviously in the mandatory slot for the IBF at the moment, waiting for his go against Anthony Joshua. Decent fighter, great jab, but the competition hasn't been stellar in the last year or so. Chisora about a year ago, not so bad, but let's face it, Chisora has devolved into a gatekeeper. Also Samuel Peter in 2016, and then Kevin Johnson more recently. Luis Ortiz. Now this is interesting for me. He's down at number 6. Definitely, there is the question with Ortiz. How good is he? He's only really got the one name on his record, a Bryant Jennings fight. But beyond that, there was an over-the-hill Tony Thompson, Malik Scott, David Allen. Not a whole lot there. But he has been starved out. No one will give him a shot. He's been trying to get fights for a long time unsuccessfully. Number 7. Now this is where it gets really interesting for me. Lucas Browne. I mean, for God's sake, why is he at number 7? They literally just wheeled out a punching bag just a little while ago for him to dispatch. Obviously, the same thing with Povetkin. The spectre of PEDs is hanging around him. But more interesting for me is the fact that he's rated ahead of Joseph Parker. And I think overall, if you look at both their records, I've got his record up here right now. We've only got 5 fights in the last 3 years. Rudenko back in 2014. Chauncey Welliver, well, he's a journeyman. Julius Long, another journeyman. Ruslan Chagayev, actually not a bad fighter. And Matthew Greer. That's the said bum with the 16 and 20 record I was just referring to. Whereas Joseph Parker, his most recent fights, and he's been fighting very regularly in recent years. That's why it's really interesting to me that he's down at 8, where Lucas Browne has had 5 fights since 2014. And Parker, if we go to his record, way back in 2014, okay, so Nascimento, Brian Minto, Keith Thompson, Sherman Williams, Costa Jr., Jason Pettaway, Saglam, Tupou, Kali Meehan, Daniel Martz, Jason Bergman, Carlos Takam, Homono, Dimitrenko, Ruiz Jr., Kajanu. So you get my point. He's been very active. And I would argue that the last few names on that list, at least, are certainly better than Browne's. Chigai aside, there's not really a whole lot on Browne's record. So very surprising that Browne is currently in the 7th spot. And Parker holds a strap. Let's face it, he is a world champion. He has a version of the world title. I don't understand how that can suddenly relegate him down to number 8. He was a little bit higher in recent months, but for whatever reason, he has fallen. Number 9, oh, well, this is a complete shock to me. I mean, Charles Martin. When was the last time he fought? I know he's due for a comeback fight, but for God's sake, there's nothing and nobody anytime recent. And rounding out the top 10, Christian Hammer. I don't have so much of a problem with that. Maybe it's more interesting, actually, for a couple of fans that, say, in the 10 to 20 bracket, there's some boxers who a lot of fans probably thought should be higher. Let's take a look at number 17, Dilli and White. There seems to be a bit of a consensus, and at least among the sanctioning bodies, that he's a top 10 fighter. I know a lot of fans, people who I interact with, definitely consider Dilli and White in the top 10, top 12 at the outside. I think maybe Carlos Takam should actually be slightly higher. But some of these other guys like Duipa, Molina, Malik Scott, I don't have a problem with them being outside that sort of top tier. I mean, really, they're kind of third tier, some of those guys. Then again, you've got other people who have been looking okay recently. Some of those include Dominic Brazil. I mean, that was a pretty impressive come-from-behind performance against Izzy Ogono. Now, that was a cracking fight on the Wilder undercard. Okay, that's it from me. I just thought I would express my surprise and delight about these Boxrec rankings. Where do you have your top 10? Obviously, Boxrec is not taking views and opinions into account, some sort of computer algorithm and whatnot. So it's probably never going to quite match up with the fans. But Lucas Browne at 7 ahead of Joseph Parker, WBO champ. Charles Martin still in the top 10. Wow. Okay, that's it from me. Like and subscribe. I'm out.